Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajadanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe Radha Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Gaura Premanandi, Daim Vishnupada Paramahamsa, Privraj Gacharya Stotra Satta, Sri Simar, His Divine Grace, Shirabai Charan Narvin Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Iskan BBP, Founder Charya Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Samavata Bhakti Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Taksuramilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhuttale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Sri Visakanditam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyayevasya Pajitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by regularly serving the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed, practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Utamashloka Saritam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya lokasya Dhanyam swasthaya namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yad kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yad kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class, continuing from canto number 7, chapter 3, and text number 17, yes. Sri Brahma Vacha Odisto Tista Bhadram Te Tapah Siddho Asi Kashyapa Varado Aham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Sri Brahma Vacha Otisto Tista Bhadram Te Tapasidhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Vraha. Sri Brahmavacha Otisto Tista Bhadram Te Tapasidhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Sri Brahmavacha Otisto Tista Bhadram Te Tapasidhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vriyatam Ipsito Varaha. Sri Brahma Uvacha Otisto Tista Bhadram Te Tapasidhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto. Sri Brahma Uvacha Utisto Tista Bhadramte Tapasiddhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Yatam Vipsito Graha. Otisto Tista Bhadramte Tapasiddhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Riyatam Vipsito Varaha. Sri Brahma Uvacha Otisto Tista Bhadramte Tapasiddhosi Kashyapa Varadoham Anuprapto Vipsito Varaha. Sri Brahma Uvacha. Lord Brahma said, Utista, please get up. Utista, get up. Bhadram, good fortune. Te, unto you. Tapasiddhaha, perfect in executing austerities. Asi, you are Kashyapa, son of Kashyapa. Varadaha, the giver of benedictions. Aham, I, Anupraptaha, arrived. Vriyatam, let it be submitted. Upsitaha, desired. Varaha, benedictions. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up, please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Kindly repeat after me. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up. Please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities. And therefore, I may give you a benediction. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Skanda Purana, which says that Hiranyakashipu, having become a devotee of Lord Brahma, who is known as Hiranyagarbha, and having undergone a severe austerity to please him, is also known as Hiranyaksha. Rakshasas and demons worship various demigods, mm, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, just to take the post of these demigods. This we have already explained in previous verses. Everyone may kindly repeat after me. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up, please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities. And therefore, I may give you a benediction. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. Your wish. Yeah. So here Lord Brahma is he's addressing here Hiranyakashipu. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions how Rakshasas and demons worship various demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. And this, how to understand that Rakshasas and demons worship personalities who are supposed to be devoted to Krishna. Of course, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are devoted to Krishna, but they are, as we know, described in the Bhagavatam as guna avatars. And they have some connection with the modes of material nature. Lord Brahma in charge of mode of passion, and Lord Shiva in charge of the mode of ignorance. And therefore, the different Puranas, as we know, there are 18 Puranas, are divided in such a way that persons in the mode of goodness will read and take shelter of Puranas primarily in the mode of goodness, and similarly those in the mode of passion and ignorance. So it means that different living entities go to different personalities to fulfill their material desires. But of course, in the Bhagavatam, it also mentions how even if one has material desires, akama, karma, akama, kama, sarva kamova, akama, sarva kamova, moksha kama udariti, trivena bhakti yogena. Whether one has akama, no material desires, or all kinds of material desires, or desire for liberation, still one should take to the process of devotional service. But not everyone will do that. So, so these different demigods are there to fulfill yeah, different desires, different material desires of living entities. So we'll just continue here a little bit. Lord Brahma continues to respond. I have been very much, this is text number 18, I have been very much astonished to see your endurance. In spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of war, certainly this is wonderful. Purport. It appears that the soul can exist even through the bones, as shown by the personal example of Hiranyakashipu. When great yogis are in samadhi, even when their bodies are buried and their skin, marrow, blood, and so on have all been eaten, if only their bones remain, they can exist in a transcendental position. Very recently, an archaeologist published findings indicating that Lord Christ, after being buried, was exhumed and that he then went to Kashmir. There have been many actual examples of yogis being buried in trance and exhumed alive, and in good condition several hours later. A yogi can keep himself alive in a transcendental state, even if buried not only for many days, but for many years. Quite an astonishing purport. I was hearing this morning or yesterday Prabhupada explaining how the condition of the living entity in the material world is actually very very horrible when we hear of the description, and all of us have gone through this actually, birth. The Bhagavad Gita describes that the four main problems for all living entities, unchanging problems, they have existed in the past, are existing presently, and will continue to exist as well. The problem of birth, death, old age, and disease. So Prabhupada explains how, we all forget, of course, but every time we are destined or forced to take birth, and of course doctors, people in the medical field will attest to that. It's a very, being cramped up in a very tight place without the ability to move, and in a very uncomfortable position for a very long time, 9 months, 10 months. Sometimes pregnancy goes beyond that also, in rare cases. But anyways, 9 months is a long time. But even under such very, uncomfortable positions, the soul is present, is there, and of course, the consciousness. According to medical science, when does the consciousness appear? 4 months.
4 months the child can respond to light and starts moving inside the mother's womb.
from 4 months, the yeah, child begins to move. Of course, contrary to modern theory, the child from the moment of conception, there is life. Yeah. But they have invented different theories that up to a certain period of time, the child can be aborted, isn't it? Yeah, the child can be killed on the basis that there's no consciousness. But actually consciousness is there but undeveloped, isn't it? Yeah, life is there. Life means consciousness. Prabhupada mentions actually in the Bhagavatam that at the age of 7 months, 7 months of development, the body within the womb, some rare souls understand that they are in the womb, and they will actually pray to the Lord that, okay, I have again taking birth or about to take birth. Kindly this time allow me to become your devotee and finish this very horrible business of repetition of birth and death. So in the Bhagavad Gita, actually, that's a very important instruction. Janmam ritu dara vyadi, dukkha dosha nudarshanam, means in the human form of life, because it's only in the human form of life that we can meditate or understand these problems of life. Other lower species are simply living out and suffering. The special feature in the human form is that we can understand or we can question, begin to question why we are suffering. And also we have, if we are fortunate, the ability by coming in contact with proper knowledge and understanding, we can come to know how to not again repeat this suffering process of samsara, of repeated birth and death. So here in the purport, Lord Brahma actually in the text itself is expressing amazement as to how Hiranyakashipu could perform such severe austerities, and this is pointed out by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that even though the whole body may be like gone, the life air can still remain in the bones. Is that medically verified yet? Maybe not. Just like I think some years back in Nepal, you might have heard. It happens that, I guess, in different countries at different times. But the reincarnated Buddha, the young boy was found meditating for years. There are pictures, and I don't know if any of you have seen this. There are things that are difficult to explain, even like medically.
Yes.
Isn't it? How body may go through all kinds of transformations, or even, I can tell this short anecdote, which I'm sure has happened a number of times, and you may not have had personal experience. But we do meet people who have what they call out-of-body experience, isn't it? Through some major accident, they see themselves lying in the car, unconscious and whatnot, and then they come back. So one devotee in Indonesia uh, was actually he's from a Muslim family, but he became a devotee. A number of devotees actually from Muslim background. So he was mentioning how when before he became a devotee, there were two brothers. His father had two brothers, him and his elder brother. So one fine day, like it will happen to all of us, his father died. So they have very elaborate, I mean, in most communities, they have very elaborate ceremonies. People come to the home, offer prayers and respects, give donations, etc., like that. So after all of these ceremonies were performed, they have the, I think they do that also for Hindus. They will take the body to the Ganga for cremation, right? But in Islam, they carry the body to the burial ground. So they have four, what do they call them? People who carry the body on the, yeah. So everyone was going in procession, and we see that sometimes we're traveling and like that. So as they were going in procession, the father stood up. Looked around, and he was immediately put down, and everyone kind of like were shocked, of course. But his son, who was not a devotee, was telling me about this as we were waiting for a dental appointment, and his father related what had happened. He was he had left his body, and he was going through different levels, and I forget all the details. It was quite elaborate, actually. Then at one point he got somewhere, and he was told, actually, your time is not quite now. You have to go back. So he had conversations with different people, and but he was one of the instructions he got was that you have two sons. One of your sons should become Hindu, should study Hinduism, and the other son can remain. Yeah. So so this devotee who was sharing this with me, Hare Krishna, again, before becoming a devotee, him and his father, because that was an instruction his father received, him and his father would go to a Hindu temple. That was in Indonesia. They have many Hindu temples. And for many years, actually, he would do this. And because they have a practice in Islam, they go to a mosque, there's nothing in the mosque, and they just sit and they meditate, right? All in silence. So that's what they would do that in the temple, and just be there. And then it took some years before somehow this son came across one of Prabhupada's books, then contacted a devotee, and then actually became a full-time devotee. There are devotees. This was also published mm, one god sister of mine. I don't know her personally, but she related that story. Uh, in the Bhagavatam, of course, it describes about the spiritual world. It describes about the heavenly planets, the hellish planets. It talks about, in the story of Ajamil, uh, Yamadutas, and Vishnudutas, all these things. So this particular devotee, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, her father for whole life was not at all interested in spiritual life. And he became very discouraged when his daughter became a Hare Krishna. And kind of like lost communication for many years, as it often happens. Then the time factor works on everyone. So after a number of years, he was getting older, then became ill and whatnot. And so she came to know, and so she decided to actually, she was in India at that time, had come to India, spent many years. But knowing and understanding that her father was in his last days, actually, she went back to America. And father by this time was admitted in the hospital. He was, he was like very healthy for most of his life, but then at the end of, however healthy we may be, when at the end of life, that dwindling stage is there, and it will happen to everyone. So she got special permission actually to, maybe there were not so many members in the family to kind of give personal care and attention to the father. She got special permission, I think, with her daughter, to be in the room at nighttime with her father. And then, when you're very closely living with someone, you observe so many things. So she was starting to notice that in his sleep, he was becoming very restless, and he was to the point of shouting, and that went on for quite a few days. He was still conscious in the daytime, but at night this was taking place. So after some days, she spoke with him, and he was very reluctant initially to speak. But then after prodding for some time, he finally began to explain. He had never read the Bhagavatam, right? So, because he didn't believe, he was not a non-believer. But the body gets frail, ill, etc., like that. And so he was describing what we actually read in the Bhagavatam. He was describing very ugly-looking creatures coming to actually pull him out of the body. Very fierce-looking creatures, and they had dogs also. I mean, it's quite elaborately described in the Bhagavatam. And so she was very surprised, of course. She had read the Bhagavatam. She could immediately begin to understand that actually, because majority of people who are not devotees are engaged in all kinds of sinful activities, and it is for them that the Yamadutas actually come, because they are so attached to their bodies. Anyways, because of her presence there and her care and attention, he finally, we could say, in those last days, surrendered. And so there's all kinds of realities here Prabhupada is making reference to people who are having these siddhis, mystic siddhis. Majority of people don't have, everyone actually has access to that because these siddhis are within the mind. The powers of the mind are like some people have such a very strong will, or such strong determination, and can endure all kinds of situations. And Prabhupada, of course, describing here, giving the example of Lord Jesus, who, of course, within Christianity, they call his reappearance as what they call resurrection, isn't it? Yeah. But there are many examples of yogis performing similar kinds of feats and whatnot. So, it means that we, for those who choose to become devotees of the Lord, they don't have to go through all of these very unusual and maybe weird experiences. The position of a devotee is, Krishna explains, that he takes personal care of his devotees. That doesn't mean that devotees may not be put into difficulties. That understanding, of course, needs to be there. There are many great devotees of the Lord who have had to undergo, Haridas Thakur, isn't it? He was completely fully surrendered devotee, but he had to be put into various difficulties. So, anyone have any thoughts on this or comments?
In terms of this soul returning back, actually I have personally witnessed this in my own family.
Okay.
It has happened with my own mother.
Is it, huh?
I don't know if my father has shared with you this thing. And it's actually, you might be knowing. My mother, she can't see now. She
Yeah, correct.
lost her eyes.
Yeah.
Because she had a brain tumor.
Uh-huh.
And that tumor was almost like a cancer stage.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Unless she was very active, and then slowly, that time I was in my college. So when she had this brain tumor, none of us could identify what is wrong, because she was just vomiting, and sometimes she will just become senseless, she will get faint. And slowly what she had developed is she couldn't see things clearly. So my father said maybe she needs to go for the checkup, eyesight maybe. So we took her for the eye checkup, then doctor checked and they just gave her a specs to use. But in just 2-3 months that she found more difficulties. The blurriness was increasing.
Yeah.
Then again we took her for the checkup. Then one of the doctors, they're experts. So one of the doctors, they said, I doubt something else. It may not be the eye problem. There might be something else. You please take her for some scanning.
Yeah.
And this is about 28 years ago. So that time there was no such technology also too, like especially in Bengal or Orissa, no such technology. Then we took her for the scanning, and in the scan report it was found that there is already a tumor which is affected to the eye optical nerve synapses.
Yeah.
And it has actually affected her left side, because it's on this side of the brain. So it has affected the left side, like, so gradually what she was feeling is things are not functioning.
Yeah.
And her eyes, left side eye, and everything is like totally abnormal.
Yeah.
And so slowly, then when we found that it's already tumor, then they sent something for cancer test. And then they found that it's already like a very serious matter. So there was a discussion among the doctor and our family that what should we do? Should go for surgery or
Yeah.
then if we do the surgery, if she survives, then it can continue for another 25, 30, whatever numbers.
Right.
Otherwise, there is a big risk of losing life immediately because it's on the main.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was like confusion was there. Then my father and my uncle, they said, let's go for the surgery because if she continues without surgery, she can survive for another 1 year or 1.5 years. That will be too much painful.
Yeah.
So they decided to go for surgery. But then doctor said she may lose life even during the surgery.
Yeah,
Also.
correct.
So it's a very risky thing. So you write a contract.
Yeah.
So we all, my father was there, said, they wrote a contract, and then when the day, there was 2 times surgery because the tumor had already admitted a lot of water on there. So first they tried to remove the water. It took some 10 days, and after that, she was there in the hospital. That time my father was in the village. And I think you might be knowing, my father was a great cow lover.
Yeah, yeah.
We had so many cows, and he used to very closely serve cows, like talking also with the cows.
Yeah, yeah.
So like that. And so he was, when the surgery was going on, that time my father was in the village only with the cows. I was there with my mother. For 2 months I was in hospital only, taking care of my mother.
Uh-huh.
And actually among children, I am the most close to my mother from the beginning. I am very close to my mother. So I was feeling very sad, what if she goes,
Yeah.
what will happen to me, and all.
Yeah.
I was very much sad. But anyway, surgery has to be done. So the day surgery was to happen, all of my relatives, they were all there, and her head was shaved because that time there was no such laser surgery, no such facility. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had to open it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were showing how the skulls are connected like this.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a totally open brain surgery. And what I'm hearing, I'm sharing with you is just what's shared by the doctor actually.
Okay.
They were doing, it took nearly 3 hours to do the surgery. And after just about like 3 hours, suddenly they came out and we thought the surgery is over. But the doctor came out and they said, we're sorry, we couldn't help it. She's normal. So I couldn't stop myself. I suddenly cried so much, and I was feeling shy also to cry there loudly. So I went to the bathroom, I closed the door, and I was crying.
Right.
All other outsiders, all they were also crying. I was thinking, so from today onwards, I will not have my mother. And then after crying, I felt relieved. Then I came out, and I saw everybody is silent there. Like you were crying, you were also silent. Then I asked, what happened? No, the doctor is again gone inside. Like just in 5 minutes, they again went inside. So when they went inside, they started continuing the surgery again. When the whole surgery was done, completed, then the doctor came out and they said actually what had happened is when the surgery was already going on, she had left the body. After some time she left the body because they thoroughly checked that nothing was functioning.
Correct.
Almost everything was there. Actually, in fact, they had already packed up the whatever things have to be used for the surgery. But the last time when one nurse, she could see suddenly this finger started from moving. Then she immediately saw, she couldn't believe it. Then she started checking. Then whatever was not functioning, it was already like functioning, started functioning. Then she immediately came and she called the doctor back to continue there. So they were doing the surgery. Later they showed us the big size of, they put in a jar, a tumor. It's like a rose flower, big size. They're showing us. Now, to connect with this, actually what happened, my father, when he was in the village.
Okay.
So that time we had a cow who was actually pregnant just to be delivered. Because generally cow delivers after 9 months.
Yeah.
Cows also there to the 9 months.
Right, like human. Yeah.
So she was almost in the, like almost 9 months, close to 9 months. My father, she knew that the matter is very serious, and when the doctor had already declared, some people have called already informed to my village that she's no more now. So my father, she was just talking to the cow. So my children also will become motherless. Same day, the cow delivered a dead baby. Delivered a dead baby. Right. So when everything was over, when we all returned to our home, my father was saying it's very much connected to this. Okay. The cow, she has actually taken the whole, like, because when the cow is there, she's the mother, so she takes away she has the power to take away the most.
Yeah. There are many similar kinds of rather unexplainable
yes.
events, occurrences.
Scientific, we may not be able to explain, but
right.
These things have very much connection.
Yeah.
Actually, that was in the context of cows. My father was telling that how cow can actually take all kinds of difficulties to her.
Yes.
She won't let Actually, I have heard even one more thing that if the cow is there at home, even the Yamadutas have to take permission to enter into the house.
Okay. Yeah, because cow is Gava Pavitram Paramam, the supreme purity, purest. Gava Pavitram Paramam, Gavam Mangalam Uttamam. Yeah.
So I was not, initially I was not believing so, but then I could see with my own people that. But later on I asked my mother, did you feel anything that, he said I was just senseless, I have no idea what was happening.
Okay.
So,
right. Yeah.
She had to.
She was under anesthesia,
yes,
of course. Right.
That she couldn't see anything till today. She can't see.
Right.
Lost her vision.
Okay. Anything else? On medical side? I think in medicine there are many things that people cannot explain. And the most important factor, which majority of people don't know, or mostly people don't know, that's also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that there are 5 factors, isn't it, that make for proper result of any kind of activity. The person, the instrument, the location, the circumstance, and then the last factor is the divine factor. So some people call it good luck or bad luck, but we know it is Krishna. So without Krishna's sanction, nothing can take place, and Krishna can make the seemingly impossible become possible. People, we hear stories. People enter into the hospital for a open heart surgery. The chances of their survival is like maybe 1 out of 100. It's like practically non-existent. And that person comes out, survives. Then somebody goes in for a toe operation and he dies on the table. It's like, generally people don't die on the operating table because of a small kind of operation, but circumstances will vary. Yeah. Okay, we can close for now. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Yeah.